PopimpessKA journal, and we're here with Philippe Quint. And he's an amazing musician and also world famous violinist. Philippe, how are you?
Great, thank you.
So I know that you're from St. Petersburg, it's my hometown.
Well, great.
Now, could you please tell me, how did you grow up and when did you come to New York?
I grew up in Leningrad, and I started playing the violin when I was 4 years old. And I came to New York to study at the Juilliard School in 1991, in a studio of a great violin pedagogue, teacher, Dorothy DeLay. And that's how my life in America started.
How did you get accepted to Juilliard School? I know it's one of the best schools in the world.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about it.
Well, the truth of the matter is that I heard of the Juilliard School for the very first time when Israeli violinist Itzhak Perlman came to his very first tour to Soviet Union in 1990 or 1989 sometime. And in his bio, I read that he studied at the Juilliard School with Dorothy DeLay, and that's when I had this notion that maybe one day I could also be studying at the Juilliard School with the same teacher. I didn't even know she was alive. Luckily for me, she was alive, and somebody sent her a tape of mine, and she invited me to audition. So that's how I came to New York. That was my very, very first experience.
Now, what was your first performance in New York? Which stage did you perform at?
First performance was, I think, in a tiny high school in New Jersey. And it included all the repertoire that I learned up to that point, I think. It was a lovely little concert hall, and it was full of people, and they gave me standing ovation. And you know, according to Russian standards, standing ovation is one of the greatest compliments to any artist. And then the surprising thing was that after the entire audience stood up, they sat down and never called me back.
Never called you back?
Never called me back, because you know, I'm used to the Russian or European tradition when the artist is called back several times for several curtain bows. But I didn't know at the time that the standing ovation in America is actually rather popular, which very quickly turns into a leaving ovation if people are rushing to get home.
That's for sure. Now, I know that you performed at Joe's Papa, that's where we met you, with Lily Maisky.
Yeah.
How did the union happen? And the piece that you wrote, it was Opera Brave, was amazing.
Thank you. Opera Breve is a new CD that just came out last week on Avanti Classic label, and it includes a number of operatic transcriptions by various composers, including Donizetti, Humperdinck, Tchaikovsky, Defaya. So it's a compilation. It's a compilation of most incredible opera arias, and Lily Maisky is of course daughter of the great cellist Misha Maisky, is a good friend of mine, and we were looking for a project to collaborate on, and we thought that this would be an interesting project to collaborate on, just for the reasons of each piece on the program that we selected jointly represented something from our past. So when we decided to put Eugene Onegin, the Lensky aria,
Beautiful, yeah.
yes, you know, that of course represented both of our Russian roots.
Yes.
When I was playing Defaya, which is also on this record, that reminded me of my first trip to Spain. And,
when was that?
And seeing probably somewhere around 97. So then Gershwin, of course, my arrival to the United States, and the skyscrapers, you know, just like as a general feel of New York, which is so unforgettable, you know, just the road from JFK Airport to what was my new home, essentially. That's really a culture shock, you know.
What was your first thought when you arrived?
First thought was that I wanted to get a can of Coca-Cola in a vending machine. Somehow for me that identified the fact that now I'm in America. I don't know what it was, but like that, somehow that was it. And then of course just getting accustomed to the new society. I obviously had no friends, so acquiring new friends was very different, especially without the language. I did not speak a word of English, and suddenly I'm going to this dream Juilliard school. I'm in New York City, and I'm in this incredible world of music and arts. And there was a great misconception about America and Juilliard school, about everything. You use a number of urban legends, you hear gossips, you hear reports on television, but it's never quite the experience. So I was under the impression, for example, that Juilliard school gives you a stipend, monthly stipend, and with this stipend they also give you a free apartment, which is fully equipped, with a stereo. Yeah, it's like a fully furnished apartment. It's complete nonsense. I don't know where it came from. And you have these expectations, and then it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So you just kind of make your own way, and you learn as you go.
How was your first year at school?
First year at school was very intense. It was very intense for many different reasons, because the American school of music is very different from the Russian school of music.
In what range is it different?
It's different in the approach, where my Russian teachers used to throw things if they didn't like something that I was doing, and sometimes a music score would be thrown out together with a violin case and the student.
To get outside?
Yeah. The American approach was very different. It was much more calm. It always initiated for me to think and to figure out how to solve a problem on my own rather than giving me the answer. And I think that led to the development of me and other people as better people, more mature people, more developed musicians, more versatile musicians. It's an important ingredient, it's an important component of how we mature, when we're not given the answers, but we come to those answers on our own.
Now when you started performing heavily around the world, was it a surprise for you? Who were your first mentors when you started?
My first mentors, of course, was my teacher, Dorothy Duray. Then, as you get more accustomed to country, you meet more and more people.
And the stage, of course, how was for you to go out on stage like so often? And there was like a routine almost.
The thing is that people always talk about the nerves.
Right.
The nerves, how difficult it is, and how you have to figure out certain ways of beating the nerves. And with experience, you come down, that you don't react to pressure as much. I like being nervous.
You do?
I love being nervous. The moment when I don't feel any nerves on stage is a moment of death for me. The reason being is because being on stage and performing for many people, or even in a studio, or being in front of the camera and with many people, yeah, it has to be somewhat nervous. And I'm not talking about nerves that actually prevent you from executing a good quality performance. I'm talking about the nerves when you actually don't feel that the stage is special. That is scary. For me, that is scary. That is a point of no return. I don't ever want to experience that. I want to come on stage and I want to be slightly nervous so I can feel the uniqueness of the process, the atmosphere, the energy that you're sensing from the audience, from the first rows, that are anticipating something and they don't know what. And that is precisely the reason why people still go to concerts. Why people go to live performances? You can see everything on television, on DVD, YouTube, for God's sake. You don't even have to pay money to see all your favorite actors, musicians, artists. Everything is available to you. Yet, we still, thank God, have sold out live performances of certain shows. The reason being is because we're dealing with something that is absolutely priceless. And that is some sort of history passing in front of our eyes. It's a very quick moment. Those moments very quickly become history, but those moments are absolutely priceless because there is no way to replicate that. There's just, they cannot be redundant. That's the one thing that scares me sometimes. It's just something that's redundant or something that is too repetitive. For me, it lacks creativity. For me, it lacks inspiration. That's why, as I said it before and I'll say it again, I like being nervous.
And which performance do you consider the most historic in your life so far?
Well, there have been many. I don't consider any of them historic by all means. In the realm of myself being this historic figure, I'm not. But there's some memorable performances. I think one of them being a performance when I won the Juilliard competition. That was years ago, and I got to perform with Maestro Kurt Mazur at the Every Fisher Hall. That was a very special.
And you were also nominated for Grammy with the orchestra when you were performing that. How was that?
I was actually nominated for a Grammy for recordings that I did. And that was also recording of the same concerto that I performed with Kurt Mazur, which was the Cornwall. It was the Cornwall concerto, which is, he's known as a film composer, but the truth of the matter, he's just a genius, brilliant composer overall. As Mahler, Strauss, as Wagner, Cornwall, that's the great composers. So that was one of the nominations, and another one was for another disc that I did of an American composer by the name of William Schumann. That's no relation to Robert Schumann, and also no relation in sound. It's a very dissonant piece of kind of an underestimated American composer, whose music is slowly conquering the stages here and there.
We're back to your family. Do you go back? Are they here? What is the story?
My mother is a well-known Russian Soviet. I don't know how she labels herself these days, but composer Laura Quint, and she is still producing some wonderful musicals and movies. She had a premiere recently. I actually flew for one day to Moscow. For one day, because one day is all I had.
How long was the flight?
The flight was at least 12 hours.
Back and forth.
With a connection, because I was flying from Texas and I was returning back to Texas. For 2 different concerts. It was a match, but it was worth it. I never get to see my mom. She's busy with her stuff, I'm busy with my stuff, but we try to meet in Europe most of the time. But this was a special occasion because it was the premiere of a musical I'm at Montantes based on Count of Monte Cristo, starring Dmitry Pevtsov, a fantastic, of course, Russian actor and singer. So
check that out.
Yes, beautiful opera. It was worth it for sure. Yeah.
And when you're growing up, was she the one that spent a lot of time with you? Did she teach you anything in particular? Did she encourage you to be a musician and play violin?
Well, my whole family was rather encouraging, and I grew up mostly with my grandparents. My mom was quite busy working on her
Career.
operas. So I just grew up in a musical environment, and the family was also always very very big on taking me to theaters and ballets. So that musical environment also really forms you as a person, as an individual, and I feel that it really helped. It gave me a lot of inspiration for anything that I've ever done since.
I know that to play Stradivari is a very good moment. It's a very rare violin. How did you come to do that? And your first meeting with Stradivari?
My first meeting with Stradivari was when I was 18 years old. And it was in a New York shop of a very prominent violin expert by the name of Jacques Francais. He had many great instruments. One of them being Stradivari, which was my very, very first Stradivari that I was holding in my hands. And of course, I got to play a few notes. And of course, it's one of those priceless experiences that I will never forget. But then I was fortunate enough to play on many different Stradivari instruments. There are about 550 in existence, maybe 600. Some of them are in museums, some of them with private collectors, and some of them are in the hands of musicians. So my first long-term loan of Stradivari was at the Juilliard School. They had several instruments by Stradivari, and I had one of them for several years. Upon graduation, I had to return this instrument to school, which was a very sad moment because, for a musician, instrument is like a person. You get attached.
It's magic.
It's
Great magic.
Yeah, it's magic and
Wizard and magician.
Yeah. So for me, it was very personal attachment, but I had to give it up. This is sort of like saying goodbye to your baby. And then for a couple of years, I was hoping to match that, and it wasn't happening. It was, several years of tough times. And then I was performing a concert in Buffalo, New York, and an elderly couple approached me and said that they had a Stradivari, and if I would be interested in playing on it sometime. It wasn't available at the time, but let's keep in touch, etc. So I forgot about it, but a year later they contacted me and they said, hey, the violin is available, do you want it? And of course I jumped on this incredible opportunity. So the whole deal was brokered by the Stradivari Society in Chicago, which is one of the major organizations in the United States that loans instruments to young musicians. And ever since I played on Stradivari violins, and right now it's 1708. 1708 is it's over 300 years old, obviously.
Older than
it had seen the world, let me tell you. So touching it and opening my violin case every day and looking at this priceless possession, even though it doesn't belong to me, but it's there in my case. It's like being in touch with history. It's like touching history, almost like traveling in a time machine. Because when you touch it, I always envision what this violin had seen and the performer that played on it. One of them being a very prominent Spanish violinist of the 19th century, Pablo de Salazar. Absolutely so he has played on my instrument, and it's amazing. It's amazing to me.
Yeah. And then, what do you think comparing? Because I love Paganini. I think the first violin that I heard was from that movie about Paganini, and the performer who was in the film played the Stradivari. What do you think of the musician and the violinist Paganini comparing to yourself? I know you can't really compare yourself to anyone as far as musician, but what do you think of that artist? because everybody had so much controversy about him. And as a violinist, I think you know the inner side of many facts.
Well, it's relatively simple for me. Certainly, I don't think anyone is even remotely allowed to compare themselves to Paganini, because first of all, we don't know exactly what was that creature. You know, it seems like this was someone who was phenomenally talented and phenomenally smart. If I was to talk in today's terms, I would have to say that Paganini was the first rock star.
Interesting.
But I don't like saying that, because I'd rather say that Michael Jackson was the Heifetz of classical music, or the Paganini of classical music. You know, you never hear that. You never hear that. But I'd like to say that.
Well said.
I'd like to say that. You know, and he certainly was. He was a pioneer in many ways. He created this myth about him that he sold his soul to the devil. Actually, he didn't. The media did.
Well, he was participant in the Black Tulip movement, the revolution of France.
Not really. No, he stood away. He stood away from politics. So it's the amount of urban legends about Paganini, they're countless. You know, he's associated with the devil. The fact that he was thrown into jail because he killed his mistress.
Not true.
All kind. We don't really know, but these are all beautiful urban legends. And what I do know is that he actually increased and manipulated those legends himself, because those were selling a lot of tickets to his concerts. His legend, and we're talking about before internet.
Yes, of course.
You know, they used to send pigeons with messages.
Right, it did.
But his name, like, you know, virally spread around Europe. Everybody knew that Paganini was. Even people that didn't know that he was a violinist knew the name Paganini. It was a brand name that created a lot of legends around during his time, and even so many years, centuries after his death.
Yes.
We're still fascinated. Every young violinist in the world is fascinated with Paganini, trying to figure out who was he. And the truth of the matter is that his accomplishment, his achievement, his contribution to the music world is really one of the greatest ones, because he stretched the boundaries of what can be done on violin. The guy was imitating sounds that he heard on the street, sounds of donkeys, sounds of cats, sounds of church bells, sounds of a squeaking carriage.
Are you trying that too?
Of course I tried it.
You do?
Of course I tried. Yes, once I've read all the stories, I wanted to see if I can do it. I mean, and that's the beautiful thing about violin. It actually can emulate human voice the best. In fact, that's why I dared to do an album of operatic transcriptions, which was originally written for voice.
Right.
But I feel that violin has yet an extra degree of expression.
How do you express yourself with violin when you perform a certain piece?
How do I express myself?
Yes.
Well, very frequently violin or a composition dictates how I interpret the piece. You know, expression is something that's innate, it's in you, so it varies from day to day, from composition to
When you're angry, for example, or when you're happy, how do you show it? What can be different in the piece when you're feeling certain emotions because of that show?
It's the thing is that whether it's anger or tiredness, sadness or happiness, it does transmit to the music. And the transformation process is, it's natural basically. It's nothing to do about it. So, what I do is that I use whatever state I'm in, use it to the benefit of the music.
how do you want people to remember you? Like, after your performance, what kind of memory you want to leave?
I think what's important is what is important for every artist is to leave somebody with a certain emotion. People come up to me after the concerts very frequently, and they start by saying, "You must hear this all the time, but I was so touched by your performance, and it was so beautiful. You probably don't want to hear it." And the truth of the matter, I do. I do want to hear it. I do want to hear this feedback where somebody tells me that my interpretation and this particular concert had touched their heart. That is the greatest honor, that is the greatest privilege, and that's why I'm on stage.
Excellent. What are your 3 wishes now?
3 wishes?
Yeah.
In general, I work on making this world a better place, and it starts from education. It starts from education, it starts from bringing music, bringing your art to school, being a great ambassador of the craft that I'm presenting. And that sometimes means going to schools for underprivileged children, schools that don't have music program, schools that don't have access to classical music, sometimes going to some countries that are experiencing really difficult economic times, and again bringing this art, which for many kids may make the difference. Because even if you have helped 1 kid out of 100, your presence on this planet is justified.
True. Now, what would be your wish for that? Because you are a role model.
I don't think of myself as a role model, but I do strive to improve this planet in whatever way I can, and my way of helping this planet is through my art. I don't have any other tools. Sometimes through a conversation, and the people that are not exposed to arts or what I do, I always take time to explain, and I'm a strong believer in converting people one by one.
That's great.
And because I travel so much, and because I meet so many people, I love to talk about what I do, and I love to talk about how important it is to keep promoting arts, to keep promoting education, to keep bringing arts to the smallest places in the world, on this planet. That is definitely a mission.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure.
Thank you. PopImpressKA?
Perfect.
PopImpressKA.